like I really don't belong. I can't explain it. When I close my eyes, I see a strange reality. Am I dreaming, or on the edge of remembering? You wake up feeling like you really don't belong. You can't explain it, but when you close your eyes you see familiarity. Are you dreaming, or on the edge of remembering? Who will you be tomorrow? And what are you today? Okay, we are live again. Happy Sunday to you. I hope that you're working on making it happy. Today, I decided to pull a card for myself from John Kelly's vibration deck. And it reminded me about beliefs, specifically when we have beliefs about our bodies, we think of as natural aging. And the truth is, there is no such thing as natural aging. We are just accustomed to thinking that way. That can be changed. Our realities change as our beliefs shift. When we believe we're helpless, when we believe there's no way out, when we believe we're stuck, that's exactly where we are. We believe it's the end. The truth is, and people have demonstrated it over the years, over the centuries, that you will reflect your beliefs in your body. You believe that you can keep going, you believe that you can live to ripe old age, and that is your belief. That is how it shall be. As you believe, you will receive. So I was reminded about that today, in all likelihood, because it was kind of a rough physical morning for me. And when that happens, it's hard not to get a little nervous up. Mind you, I have no issue with dying because we don't. I know it's just a return to my natural state, and I'm good with that. But one doesn't like to suffer, right? So we try to live a healthy life. I'm sure you do, as much as you can, so that your later years will be easy on you and you can move forward in your life with less fear. That you have somehow let yourself down. That is not the case if you get sick. It's not a lack of belief. It's just we're programmed. Our whole existence has been programmed to see certain things as inevitable. And that, unfortunately, and inevitably sets us up for our next experiences. There have been people, and the yogis have proven this over and over, that we can choose our own death, and we can be perfectly healthy when we choose to go. We can be miserable on the way out, or we can be as productive as we choose. So do we age? Yes. Yes, we do, but not all at the same rate. It's not about what we eat, or smoke, or drink, even though all of those things can be proven to have physical effects on us. In part because we believe it. Beliefs set us up. So I already hear the questions. What if I believe myself to be a fabulous ballet dancer? And I go out there dressed in my tutu and I fall flat on my face. So, if you really wanted to believe yourself to be a ballet dancer, you're logically going to be inspired to take lessons and practice, because that's how momentum works. If you want to be good at anything, you're not going to just sit there going, I am good. You're going to actually try something and see if you are. Like I know I'm no good at sewing, but I keep trying. And sometimes I do okay. Most of the time, though, it's advisable that I hire somebody to do my sewing, which is why I'm into wet felting. No needles are required until we're stabbing things into submission. Now, I was checking out some videos this morning. I was trying to be careful to avoid a certain face whose glowing orange disturbs my peace in the morning. But when I turned on the channel, that was one of the first things that popped up. Ugh, here we go. I didn't get stressed out. I was like, all right, there's always a reason. What is it today? And my mind has a lot going on. But one of the things I noticed is there's some very actually dangerous people in the comments because they deny fact, they call people names, etc. So today I found myself very calmly leaving comments for some people whose impolite approach to the comment section was unjustified and also very stupid. So I did not call anybody stupid, but sometimes, well, I've been known to call this administration morons because, yeah. The problem is with stupid people is they don't recognize that they are stupid because they're too stupid to know how stupid they are. So they keep getting more stupid people under their belt. But that's for another day. Our responsibility, no matter what is going on in the world, is to ourselves and our peace. And why is that? If you don't take care of yourself first, you will have no energy to help anybody else. For the last year and a half, one of my main mental focuses has been how to feed my neighbors because I foresaw food shortages. And I see myself surrounded by many poor people with no means to cope. And everybody chooses where they're going to be, and their beliefs will attract what they need, or if that what they need is to be disappointed, it'll attract that as well. But I thought, I know a few people here that I have grown to care about enough to want to make sure they're eating. So I am going to become the sprout lady, the grow your greens on the windowsill lady with some seeds lady. Because we just planted a garden out front. It's not going to supply food. It's actually can supply next spring emergency food. I will be grateful for that. Hopefully I won't need to be too grateful. But I ordered and received yesterday a dozen quart jars with the wide mouths. And I ordered some inserts for them for growing greens upward. And I am really excited about this method because I have tried many, and any old screen really will work when you can use cheesecloth if you want, when you are growing sprouts in a jar. But when you want the greens and you need that upward motion, you have a different set of rules that you have to follow. So I grew some pea greens and I harvested them last night, in fact. And they are absolutely beautiful. And I love being able to harvest things from a windowsill, especially since I worked on the farm, not like an industrial farm, a little home farm down south. I put food up, I put seed and stuff in the ground. I loved what I did, but let's face it, when you are growing your own food, it's a lot of work. You have to keep up with it. You don't really get a season off, as some people think. There's always something to do, even in winter up here. In fact, winters in New England are times to plan your spring garden and get all your seeds and all that stuff in order. Now, I don't have any property that I can farm, nor do I have the financial resources to buy a share in a local farm. These days, buying a share just means you invest in the farm before they plant by showing them what you're interested in eating. You give them the money, they use that money to buy everything they need to grow that stuff. And you, depending on how much you invest, you get to go visit once a week or twice a month, or et cetera. They have different plans for how many times a week or a month rather that you can come and get whatever they're growing in that season. And you always know what they're going to grow, so you know what kind of bargains, or not bargains, what plans you want to get involved with. But even at the lowest level, unfortunately, it's a few $100s short of what I could use to do that. So the next best option is collecting seeds that can be used for sprouting. Not all seeds can be sprouted because they've been treated with pesticides or fungicides, and you don't want to be eating those, and you can't just soak them out. So learning of all that is important. If you want to grow some food on your windowsill on the cheap, you can grow your own lettuce substitute. You can grow your own arugula. You can grow romaine, actually, because you can grow loose leaf lettuces in a few jars and just keep plucking them and putting them in the refrigerator. So it just depends on how much you want to eat. I hope your tea or coffee is just as good as mine today, or better. Okay, this will not fall apart, but I don't know what I can do about this. I made this so fragile and lacy, probably a mistake. But if worse comes to worse, I'll just needle felt them down and make a part of the design. But in the meantime, the double rosette with their own little leaves is working just fine as a fastener. And this kind of covers it up. We've got these sticking out. Now these are also very fragile, but they have the backing of the purse, so you're not in danger. This I've been kind of getting, not intentionally rough, but in opening and closing these got kind of stretchy. So I'm wearing an outfit that I created this purse for today. I'm going out to a lovely, one of my favorite places in New London for an early dinner with my favorite nephew and his wife. So I'm excited. I get to go out today, I get to eat out, and I get to give them their wedding gift. Okay, so today, my friend is learning how to do felted pictures, two-dimensional painting with wool. So I want to make her some canvases to work on. I made her a big one, and she did it, but I think that was too much for her because this is the size of the paintings that she wants to recreate in wool. So I'm going to make a couple of them this size, and yeah, we'll lay out the wool and see what we can do. I think we'll get some more. Now this is what I'm going to be doing now. We're just using a coarse filler wool. It is a beautiful natural color. It's unbleached. And aside from the stink of the stables, like their sheep were not clean enough before they were sheared, this stuff is just gorgeous to work with. Now the smell, unfortunately, it does come out with washing. It's got a beautiful long staple. She needs. She likes the kind of deckled edge. Would you be a little thinner there? I think so. The thinner it is in the layers, the faster it will fold. But you don't want holes. There is some light. It's kind of like playing with cotton candy that doesn't melt in your fingers. It's so soft. So my guess is today, Mr. Gary is at work. It's way too early for Doc to be awake. It's just barely 6 a.m. in Hawaii. I hope he's sleeping. Now I'm going to make this 4 layers instead of 3 because she's felting on top of it, so she needs a little bit more of a cushion. And she liked working on the one that I gave her. So that was definitely 3 layers. Okay. Let's do another one before we start doing the butter. Oh. Hello. I'm good. I'm actually live on the air right now, though. Well, you can speak. Nobody knows who you are. Oh, no. You want to postpone? Oh. Oh, no. We can do that. Okay, well, I can't look at my calendar right now, but I can text you later. Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Yes, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Okay, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why you can't hear me. Well, that changes everything for today. Hello? Oh, I was not having problem hearing you. You're having a problem hearing me. I texted you. Yeah. I'll check my calendar and get back with you later. That's all right, sweetie. I love you. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye. Change of plans. Well, what's really interesting is I was going to try and talk him out of going to any open houses, but it got canceled on its own. Peeps, now is not the time to be buying property. We are headed to food shortages and breakdowns in a lot of different things, and that is not a good time to invest in property because you might find yourself mobile. You know, people forget history. Unfortunately, my beloved nephews dropped out of high school at 16 and they missed out on a lot of history. They do not know or understand what the Great Depression was, or how it was caused. And basically, they have ignorant parents as well, because they also dropped out of high school when they were 16. And they're really smart people, except for lacking education. Lacking education is not the same as being stupid. They're smart and they're really good at the things that they do, but they don't know very much about certain kinds of things. So we can't be doomsayers. We're not doomsayers. Being aware of something that can happen is not catastrophizing. Being aware makes you alert and ready to respond to changing circumstances. Never panic and never fear. Get clear. Get informed. Have backup plans. The American dream has long been ownership. Ownership of everything. Ownership of your house, car, boats, vacations, whatever. Owning, owning, owning. That's put people in a very dangerous mindset for themselves. You don't need to own everything, and you certainly don't need to own much to be happy, unless you keep creating new problems for yourself. I should try an extra layer. Hit the side, we're going to add some water, and we're going to see how thick it is, and if I left any holes, we need to plug up with that. Oh. Okay, let's get back to you guys. Sorry. Everything's happening at once. Okay, where was I? Hot soapy water. Oh, gloves. That's right. So one of the things, not about food, one of the things I've been wanting to try is chickpea greens. I did not even think about chickpeas grown for greens until I read about it and saw it was like, oh, wait a second, that sounds really good. And I have a lot of dried chickpeas that are imported from India and were not subjected to a bunch of chemicals like we do here. So your chickpeas are one of the most valuable proteins on the planet. And I heard a year ago that we were going to start to see shortages of chickpeas coming up this year, which, considering how many people rely on them, is terrifying for the world. It is a very good protein and so flexible. You can take your dried chickpeas and grind them into flour and make little flat cakes with them. Really good. I make tortillas with them. You can sprout them after soaking them. And when they just sprout, you can use them as a food source. And they're healthier after they're sprouted. And now, look what I'm going to try next is you can grow them for their greens. Like, I gotta try that. I love my greens. And greens right now are extremely expensive. I just spent $180 on groceries. I'd like to say it was for groceries, but $15 was just to place the order, and a $5 fee just to place it online. And then I have to tip the delivery person, of course, because they're independent. It costs a lot of money just to get an order delivered. Some of the stuff didn't come because there wasn't any left. But what I got is at least 30% more expensive than it was just a few weeks ago. The lettuce was outrageous. The little cucumbers were starting to look kind of lame. They didn't get enough water. And our best stuff is imported. We're not growing it here. That's why it's expensive. So everywhere you can save your budget by growing something of your own. Even if you're in an apartment with a crappy little window and not a great amount of light, you can still grow food and survive. Now, if you want to be informed about chickpeas or garbanzo beans, YouTube has, I don't know how many thousands of videos on creative ways to cook with them, profiles of their nutrition, what they go best with, nutritionally. I mean, there's so much information. That looks a little thin there. So I'm just going to throw a little strip on there. I think we can put a little bit right there. Let's put the other away. Time to squeeze out the excess water now. Now, I have to confess that earlier, while I was putting my outfit together for later, my intuition told me that my nephew was going to have a reason not to come out today. So I expected it, and because I expected it, I got exactly what I was expecting. He canceled, no, postponed. to it. Let's sponge some off. These are great sponges. Of course, then I don't have a place to put this. I remember. Bring a bowl for that. What I like about these sponges, I'll just throw them in with the laundry. They're reusable hundreds and hundreds of times. Just been using the same, I don't know, half a dozen for 2 years, 3 years now. Definitely worth it. All right. No. I thought that was happening. I don't want you knitting together. No. I want you to be unique and individual. Now, why is my... I'm thinking it's idle. Really changes made in the last update. Oh, I just deleted our show. Oh, then you're live. I am definitely live. Okay. And to prove it, I will drink some water. Oh, yes, plenty of soap in here. I think they call this palming, which is kind of obvious. You use your palms to felt. All right. I think we're about ready. Yeah, I think she'll like these. All right, these have to go in the sink, which I am not going to do right this minute. I'm going to wrap this up to go into the kitchen. And with it, I'm soaking wet sponges that need to be squeezed out. But I don't want them dripping all over anything right now, so we're just going to do this. Stay deep. I have another favorite project. We have a little bit more of that. Good. Let's take it out. Everyone enjoyed the bookmarkers so much. I'm making some more. Now that our community has its own little library, their own little person to take care of it, oh yeah, that is real good. It must have gotten a little wet because a couple of the fibers felted. I don't think I have any more of this pale yellow. definitely a different material there. Let's get some. This is this. Just go with do I want it? That way. Maybe orange. Orange. Let's push it on. Keep it fiery on the bottom. I think we got it. Except for this. Oh, goodness gracious. These little things are fun, but they don't do well in bookmarks. Yeah, having viscose in different colors is fun. I'm glad it's not that expensive. This goes a long way. Let's take some. Wait, we're going to flip this over. That's right. Something better. Here, you little nups. Oh, that's right. We're going to flip it over after we get some purple or blue. Blue. What do we have for blue? Ah, of course. We have aquamarine and this. Okay, let's look that. Go backward. Let's just try it that away. There we go. And this. Now we can use some of this. Now let's spread out a little. Since these are going to be used as bookmarkers, we don't want them to be overly lumpy. Because, you know, we're going to be able to close the book without causing damage. Yep, no lumps. together. Okay. Maybe we'll go ahead and go back to orange. Okay. A little more of this. And boom. Just a smidge more of this yellow. Roll this across here. Anchor the silk better. As you know how silk is. It doesn't fit. All right, now let's zip it up safely. I love these things. They stretch and they stick together when you have them all in a row. So I have a nice neat line. Okay. Let me get this out of the way. Just put this in the sink. Okie dokie. I kind of got this close to the edge. Make it work. Oh, I'm suddenly hungry. I didn't eat much of a breakfast. I'm trying to redo my days so I can sleep better at night. So I'm trying to make sure I eat the heavy stuff at least 6 hours before bed. Here, we need more water. alcohol. Mm-hmm. Just need you to get wet. Without air bubbles. Air between the fibers won't allow them to melt, so you have to make sure you get everything wet, hydrated, and air pocket free. I must well use my gloves for this. I've finally used up all of the excess stuff I've had sitting here from other projects, and now it's becoming half a dozen bookmarkers in the library. I will finish this, go eat, and because I don't have to go out today, I'm going to come back for another couple of hours, or I'll do some laundry. Let's see, there's no laundry room. Now you can't rub this directly when you're using embellishments that are not wool, because they won't stick. Like right now, it looks like this might stick when I lift it off. It might stick to the plastic, which is definitely not what I want to see happen. So let's see how we're doing. Some of it did not come off, some of it tried to lift. Let's use the other side. Now, good morning, darling. Okay. Does that mean you can't listen while, yeah, the patient is me. My hands can only take so much. So I put the gloves on to spare them a little. You know, soap is drying. I can appreciate that. It is fun as long as you're not doing 100 books a day, personally. So I was supposed to go out today at 4:30 to have an early dinner with my nephew and his new wife. but he had to postpone until next week sometime because he had too disappointing and exhausting a day and he has to go back to work. So he didn't sound too happy, but I already knew beforehand that he was going to cancel, so I didn't get my hopes up. I got ready because that's what I do, but not that ready. You know what I mean? And sure enough, while I was doing this, I got a call from him telling me the problem for today. Like, it's all right, we'll reschedule. I didn't tell him I already knew it was going to happen because I spoke my family enough as it is. Oh yeah, I've done that. That's how I make extra shelves for myself, although I stopped decorating them because they're all under my bed now with food. So yesterday I got a dozen quart wide mouth jars for growing stuff, growing food. I'm very excited about it because I've got some wide mouth jar inserts on the way. And if they're a perfect fit, I will order more. I'm trying to think of ways to help my neighbors when the food crunch hits everybody and they wake up and realize I've been telling them what's happening, but nobody wants to believe it. They're still going to be hungry. So I'm getting set. Grandma's week was mostly indoors, but Grandma went to a Head Start, which is a program for disadvantaged little children. Basically, it teaches them stuff, and they had an art show. And I was able to attend, and it was so well run, and the kids were so great. Everything about it was absolutely wonderful. I hope that the funding continues. Of course, you know, we have a president who hates little children except for sex. So the program is being threatened. The state only does so much, and these programs to help the kids are federal programs. So I enjoyed myself. I was there for, I don't know, an hour and a half. Now, my head is still echoing because it could take another few months for this to dry up in my ears so I can hear again. I've got water behind the eardrum. I haven't been able to get it to drain on its own, so it's a waiting game. So being in a room, a large room, that's normally a cafeteria, with a lot of kids' voices, they didn't have to yell or scream, just all the people talking at once, and music on, you know, speakers. I didn't realize how noisy it was really until I stepped outside after an hour and a half and went, oh. I was so tense from hearing a wall of sound, you know? Yes, that's what they're trying to do. Luckily, so far it's failing, but now he's doing something extremely dangerous. And he's having the Navy go out, probably why my nephew is not with me today, going out and collecting over 800 different probes in the ocean, which monitor the oceans. And this is going to be deadly. It's a security hazard to do that. It is bad for wildlife, water mammals, all water life. And the only people who would want that are the people who are polluting the water. It's a very, very foolish, dangerous thing to do, but they plan to have people out there collecting them by the end of the week. It's also how we monitor certain aspects of our weather because the ocean and space affect our weather. So we have, as usual, insanity at the helm. And as always, I have conflict over how to handle it, to get out there as a speaker or mind my own business and focus on getting well. I did have fun. It was good to see all these kids and all the different art. The theme was the 4 seasons. So it was phenomenal. These little kids, we're talking little kids, working with a variety of mediums. And each group had an inspiration of a famous artist. And they showed pictures of the artist's work. And I gave them stuff to work with. And you've got to remember, some of these kids are like knee-high to grasshopper, like, under kindergarten age. So some of them were like just learning how to get tufts of tissue painted and stuck into branches to make cherry blossom boxes. So, cherry blossoms inside boxes. They decorated the boxes like leaves. They did such a good job. I was very impressed and very grateful to see these kids getting this, because a lot of them also saw their parents, and they need that program, since all parents are not created equal, right? I still believe firmly that before someone becomes a mother or a father, they should have a psychological evaluation to see if they know how to raise a child, or be willing to take parenting courses, which they do have, to teach people how to be a parent, because nobody is born knowing that. And your firstborn is usually your training program, and then the secondborn is nothing like the firstborn. So they have to learn all over again. So how about you, sweetie? You sold a couple of books. I'm happy for you. Did I already tell you I bought a bunch of jars to sprout things in so I can help feed the people in this building when things get really bad? It's not enough to feed everybody, believe me. We've got hundreds of people here. I'm on that selling grind. Good, 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 good. Go back and forth, buying and selling. There has to be a balance, right? Okay, this is all scrap with a little extra added so I could finish the project. These are going to be basically reversible bookmarkers. I noticed the last couple of batches, but I forgot when I made the second batch, that one side, is just really blank, and the other side has all the decorations. So I decided to throw some decor on the other side to make it more interesting. No. Oh, he is. Oh, that's so sad. I'm glad you're there to give new life to his stuff. I'm sure that he will rest easier knowing that's what's going on. Oh, I'm so glad you did that. Give him something to take with him, man. That's such a gift. It could go on for years. Yeah, but if there's a way to get them into the world rather than into the garbage, small libraries also like to raise money with book sales. Of course, I don't know how everything works for you, because, different land, different stuff, it's different. Yeah. Well, again, I'm sure After all, it's not you that bought those books. It's not your taste, somebody else's, but you're doing a great kindness. My stepdad is in a home now at 94, I guess. But he's still very aware of what's going on. He's just tired now. And part of the reason he's tired is because there's no intellectual stimulation there. Once he started having balance issues and he fell, that was it. The kids put him in a home, which is the safer place. But the man was an art collector. He refinished paintings. He made his own frames. Very intellectual. He was a judge. His brain is not dead. He doesn't have dementia. And he is stuck in a place where lots of people do. And, that's how my mom went. So he doesn't have anybody he can relate to there. The kids, come on, once kids are out of the house, they're on their own. They have their own life, and that's how it should be. But even though his youngest son is nearby, and his daughter-in-law is a very caring, patient woman, there's only so much that you can do for someone who is now spending 99% of their time either sleeping or just sitting, reading, watching other people, not doing anything because there's nothing to do. Well, you can only do what you can, Charlie. It's not your responsibility to take care of this person, but it is very nice of me to do anything to help him. My stepdad had all this art, and he actually went through all the trouble, knowing that they were moving into a smaller place with my mom having to go into memory care. He had to, he has books, but it's it. It's all he's got are books, and he's getting tired. His eyes are getting worse. There's nobody sitting there reading to him or keeping him company, no intellectual conversations. Everybody that was on his par, like my uncles, they're in California and also in their 90s. He still uses his computer. I make sure he gets at least one digital card a week. And I know he enjoys them because he will comment. But that's a very lonely existence. Like Gloria, 99 years old. She can hardly see. She can barely hear. And incontinence threatens her because she doesn't want to go out and do anything with the groups that they have because she's afraid of losing control. So she spends a lot of time doing nothing but staring with her gigantic thick glasses that make her look like a squirrel, staring at giant TV. That's it. She can't color anymore. She can't write letters anymore. And that is the sad thing about people who age that way. She can't enjoy really much of anything. So she has become a watcher. That's why I enjoy sending her things. I sent her the building's newsletter last week. So she could, because they took a picture of my rose purse and put that in the newsletter. So I sent that to her so she could see what I'm doing. And what's really sad, she had a laptop. Her daughter got the laptop and she doesn't have anything. So yes, once you have to go into those homes, you might get lucky and have a roommate or a person next door anyway that can relate to you. But the odds are against that because by the time people go into the home, they're already compromised health-wise or mentally. So there you have it. Now, see, I'm in a position where unless something radically turns around by the time I get to the point of going into a home, I'm not likely to live long enough to go into a home, which is a good thing because I am not in a financial position to pay for said home. And I'm not worried about croaking. I just don't want to leave things in a mess for other people to clean up after me. You know what I mean? And stuff I own, I'd like it to go to people I've cared about, which most of them are not family. What do you mean? I can read it. You're going to be reading my messages forever. You know, oh, until, oh, you mean if I go into a home, you'll be messaging me all the time? I'll take it. But you'll be living your own life too, and you should not ever feel obligated or guilty. Like my sister is trying to guilt her sons into taking care of her because she's refused to do that for herself her entire freaking life. Yes, all of eternity, absolutely. Now you got it. We're connected. We always will be. Who knows? Maybe in a mellow moment, I'll be able to visit you the same way my daddy visited me. Well, I'll have to give you my contact stuff so that you can text me. Now, because we're in different countries, I'm not even sure how that works without having a mutual, like, I keep track of my son and Rich on Signal. So if you have Signal, you can add me. I don't do any other social media except Blue Sky, and I don't really, oh, I'll have email, but I don't know what access I'll have, you know, later. Having my little phone, I can always, okay. Because I only have a few people on a Signal, and I'd like to just keep it to the minimum of people I care about. Email becomes more and more invasive, and you know, it's being spied on by everybody. And I just don't like that idea. All right, I think this might be ready for some hand massage. Maybe so. I don't see it moving. It is acting more like cloth, which is the idea. I figure with the stuff I put on here, we're gonna have like kids be pulling things out, you know, out of curiosity, like I would have done if I was a child. Test it. Does this come off? How is this attached? Pluck, pluck, pluck. Oh yeah, that's adhered very nicely. Anyway, my stepdad made like an encyclopedia or a catalog of all the paintings and art he owned, and attached pictures, the size, and sent it to all the kids. Well, his sons and I don't know if all of us got it because they weren't talking to him, but I got it. And the idea was to send him the back with your choices in order of which ones you want the most. But then he ended up having to go into a smaller place, and a lot of that art, I have no idea where it landed. They may have even had to sell some of it because these places cost thousands a month to live there. And all he had to go on was his retirement, and he got ripped off of most of that when there were schemes in New York with pension funds. So they retired at the same time that their money was basically stolen from out from under their nose. And they had to change their plans. So even though I gave them a list, back and said, I don't have room for 99% of this stuff, but I would very much like to have something of you and Mom. So I'm giving you my favorites and you make your decisions, and I'll be delightedly surprised with anything I get. But like I said, I have no idea where this stuff is, if it was sold to pay for the facility or what. I can say that the first one that he was in when COVID hit, my mom was going downhill fast by then, by the time of the lockdowns. But he got COVID very early. He got the first strain, but he got it in the perfect place for that because they were watching for it. The moment he spiked a fever, they had him in ER getting antibodies transfused into him. He still ended up spending like 6 weeks on the couch, unable to move. Awake, no appetite. Basically what happened to me for 6 weeks. Only he had to deal with that much older. But that did save him. So I'm glad that they moved fast. I have no idea about the facility he's at now, although I'm sure it's decent because of the people who picked it out for him. Well, I was a geriatric nurse's aide for a year. It was a very rewarding job, but emotionally painful. I cried every night at the state of the people, their loneliness, some of the bad employees who abused them. Yeah. And yes, I was outspoken even then, which is part of the reason I only lasted a year. I guess I've always been a troublemaker. When I was there, I was taking care, we had 10 patients every day when I was on second shift. And third shift, I can't remember. That was night. I fed them dinner and gave them their baths. That was my job. And changed the sheets and things like that. We did personal stuff that in some states you have to be a nurse to do. But all that aside, I noticed that one of my patients was more open to communicating. She was silent. She just sat in her rocking chair and kicked her feet and held on to a pocketbook like it was gold. She would not do anything without one of her purses, and she had a purse. Even with nothing in it, that purse was everything. I get it. And, oh, some people are just cruel, Charlie. Like, okay, who ends up in these homes? I was in one where at least 50% of the people were there on Medicare. They were over 65. They had had a stroke and were paralyzed partially, or like one of my favorite people. She was a big woman, tall woman, big Italian woman, not obese. And she was paralyzed from the chest down. She could move her arms. That was it. And so she was very, I mean, her brain was fine. Her brain was very well aware of everything that was going on. So they really couldn't mess with her too much, except like leaving her in the bathtub, waiting for somebody to come and help get out. But we had a few people there who were morbidly obese, and they too were paralyzed, but also incontinent. And we had a couple of women who worked there who were just verbally abusive. They would if they had them, they would let them lay there in their piss for an hour extra just to be spiteful, and then give them shit for having lost control of their bladder. But they had no control. They had strokes, which made them have no control. And the reason those women kept their jobs is because they were shorthanded. A lot of people don't want to do those kinds of jobs. And in my town of self-important white people, they didn't like having to take care of other people. One of them even said, well, no one took care of me when I fell, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh boy. So they just would take advantage of the fact that these people were helpless. And that's where their cruelty came out. And boy, did I, well, you know me. It wasn't a good idea. But anyway, I noticed that this one woman in particular, she was withdrawn like a beaten dog. Okay, a lot of them are. They were drugging her every day, saying that she needed that because she would get violent. Well, I was there and the medicine was delayed. Sometimes it happened like you have a crisis in one room and the nurse is the only one who can give that medication, so the nurse would not be there to give the meds on time. But they were tied into their chairs with the, I forget what they called them, posies or something. It was like a harness for dogs, only for humans, to keep them in their chairs so they couldn't go wandering. So they would have her tied down in her chair, and I'd go in and it's like, all right, let me comb your hair. Let me get you the purse you want, that kind of thing. And I would do all the talking because she never, ever spoke. And she was known for not ever speaking. One day, without that medicine, I noticed one of her photographs where it showed her as a younger woman with blonde hair. And I made a comment about it. I said, wow, you are beautiful with gorgeous blonde hair. I probably said something like that because I was about to brush or comb her hair. And for the first time, her eyes focused on mine and she spoke. Yep, exactly. Well, this woman was trying to communicate, but she was so drugged all the time, she just didn't open her mouth. So, I mean, of course, she was having problems with her mind, or she wouldn't have been in that position. But we connected. She was grateful. She reached out. It's like, you're talking to me. You're acknowledging my existence. It was so painful to see how grateful she was for a simple human connection. And then you saw the fog go back up and she receded. But that was something that was happening without this particular drug. She could communicate better, or at least be reachable. And I did not see any evidence of violence ever with her, other than if you tried to take her purse without giving her another one. All right. So that was a problem. She would like, no, don't take my purse. The woman had nothing else, so like, I understand why people hold on to their purses. So I found out what the drug was, and I did my own research because I had a PDR. Well, it wasn't long after that. Oh yeah, we had to have an actual when they're pitching a drug, they go to the nursing homes and they play a video for you, like seriously, so that you will use that drug. And we had to all attend that. So I watched this video and I'm like, my uncle sells drugs legally. He was a pharmaceutical rep and actually manager of a whole region out west. So I was familiar with a lot of this stuff that goes on. And I didn't feel right about it. So when I looked it up, it showed some things, including a toxicity connected with old age, but it was made for old people. or mostly old people. And they were drugging these people so heavily with it. Well, it turned out my warnings about it, and I said, I just don't think this is a good idea. This woman was trying to communicate until she was drugged back into submission. So I think that people need to be taking a little bit less of this stuff, which of course nobody wants to hear because they're trying to make it easy to take care of them. And it came out later. This drug was taken off the market for a while and reformulated because it raised the chances, when you're over 65, it raised your chances of dying by 50%. 50%. I trust my instincts, I trust my intuition, I trust my research. Not 100% with research because you have to always keep updating your research. So it's never a done deal like the law of attraction, you know, it never stops, but you have to understand how it works. So yeah, it's one of my heroines growing up was Nellie Bly. I can never remember her real name, but she was the woman who actually did go around the world in 80 days up against a newspaper that was sending a man around the world. So her newspaper sent her. She pretended, by using Spanish in a New York court, she pretended she was crazy. Or actually, it wasn't hard to pretend. She pretended her luggage disappeared. She only spoke Spanish and nobody could understand her. So they decided she's nuts. She keeps talking about suitcases, but she has no suitcases. It must be in her mind. They put her in a friggin' asylum in New York City, where she, of course, wasn't really nuts. She wrote a story from inside, and because of her, they started having to monitor those places more. She reported how they have a piano, but they don't let people use it. They only roll it out when there's going to be an inspection. They keep the people drugged and tied up. They don't do anything with them. They just shove them in a room and leave them there. She talked about all of the stuff, how people who clearly were there just because they couldn't speak English. That was it. Their crime was they couldn't speak English, so they were considered nuts, because that's how ignorant America was in the old days. And you would think in America that would not be happening just because we're a nation of immigrants. Yeah. So she exposed the mental health facilities in a very famous and explosive article. I forget what paper she worked for, but oh yes, it blew open the doors to some of the cruelty and bad practices of our mental institutions. All right, I think we got it. Let's toss it around again. Anyway, Nellie Bly, what she did with that, her bravery, her subterfuge, I admired her so much. She and Madame Curie were my role models. Oh, and of course, oh God, Annie, who taught, she was called the Miracle Worker. Anne Bancroft played her. She was a teacher to Helen Keller, taught Helen Keller to communicate. And of course, Helen Keller went on to become quite another brave woman, who, by the way, was a socialist and campaigned during Woodrow Wilson's time for women's right to vote and to deal with the poverty and the problems with the factories harming their employees. So these were my role models. And I have no idea who the role models are for today's youth, because I hope they're not these freaking influencers who don't feel comfortable without plastic surgery and a ton of makeup. some people believe that the whole world is going to basically have to blow up for there to be significant changes in humanity, and I don't believe that. Tell me. Oh, another one to package. Oh, all right. Is that 3? Let's, oh, I know. Let's use this. Yeah. These go in the bathtub so I can wash them. Get everything set up to do later after I eat. Wait. No. Scam. Red flag. You give them no information to reveal who you are if you don't have to. And if you're doing okay on one platform, get well known on that platform. Stay away. No, doesn't sound good, not reputable. A decent platform will have all of that intact, like Etsy. I was there at the very beginning of Etsy, and now it's a huge company with stock. Why? What is their reason for not having a built-in pay system? Yeah. Well, I'm assuming you've used it at least once. Let me give you the best advice I can give you. Seriously, you have to trust yourself. Because in all things, it's always going to come down to how you feel about it. And if you have any trepidation, that's your intuition saying, pause. Take a step back. You may need another day to review this idea, whether you used it before or not. No. I realize there's a certain level of trust that has to exist between the seller and the buyer. But buyers or sellers have gotten ripped off as much as buyers. Okay. At least he's computer literate. And I like the idea of doing things off main systems, you know, more independent systems, but I don't know. I'd want to talk to some people I'm dealing with. I'm just not gonna, like with Etsy, there's a guarantee that if you get screwed by the seller, they will cover it. They'll go and collect the money. You don't have to. It exposes your account for hacking. If they can't send money to a separate account of yours, like a Venmo or a PayPal, and they only keep nothing in there except what you're receiving, then you're going to be fine. Yeah, when you get the money, you can ship it. Anybody that gets your account number is capable of ripping you off. Never give your bank account number to anybody. That's why we use things like PayPal. You can still use PayPal. They can pay you through PayPal. PayPal also watches over stuff like that. It doesn't have to be built into the system because anybody can use PayPal. I use PayPal. And the PayPal has your bank account to cover your butt, but the private people can't. And that's the whole idea, to protect your income. Never ever give anybody your bank account number unless you are setting it up in something like PayPal. Yeah. Yeah, that's easy enough to do. But never give your bank account. That's how one of my friends just got, her whole bank account got drained because she got scammed. What if he doesn't use PayPal? Then ask him if he uses Venmo. And if he doesn't, too bad. You don't make the sale. You wait for a better client. Anybody that doesn't use some of the popular things are very young, very inexperienced, or they're scamming you. You never, ever, ever, ever give a stranger your bank accounts. That's how they get into your account, wait for a deposit, and drain it. Go ahead, sweetie. It is. I'm just finishing this up before I go eat. I will be coming back. It's very hot out. I'm not sure I want to do laundry while the sun is still up. And I have a beautiful fillet of salmon. I think I'll make some quinoa to go with it. Do it up. I think we got it. All right. So my next chore is in the kitchen, making lunch and washing the felt bookmarkers. See, you're working on books. I'm working on bookmarkers. All right, darling. I send you many kisses, but I'm not going to sing you to sleep because it's too early. Everybody else in the background, thank you for tuning in. I'll be back in an hour and a half or so. I need to eat first. So, until later.